Hi everyone. Today I'm back and I'm going to show you how to string or how to warp a loom to make beaded loom bracelets. So I have here on the screen the bracelet pattern that we made previously. And we modeled this after a Greek amphora. There was a band with this Greek meander pattern on it. So we can see a few things when we are gonna string our bracelet onto the loom from this alone. And first is that you want to count how many, so each of these boxes is going to represent a single bead of that color. And we know from here that there are 18 rows. So you'll want one extra string on the loom, or you'll want the string wrapped around the loom. Since there's 18 rows here, it'll be 19 times. However, I went ahead and made this design a little smaller because I want to use thick string. So I just took away some of those extra bands of orange and black. So rather than 18 rows of beads, I made it so that there'll instead be 14 rows of beads. And that means 15 rows of string. So I'm gonna go ahead and show you the loom that I'm working with. This is the loom I've had for a while. You could see when I've tried to take the string out, it's kind of has some scratches on it. Where I've wrapped the string, you could almost see some, maybe you can't, some indentations here because you wrap it really tightly. So anyway, this is my loom. And when you're warping threads onto the loom, warp just means the threads that are fixed onto the loom, the ones that you're not necessarily moving over and under. So I have some string here. It's really up to you how much string that you are going to use. I prefer using thick string. I don't know why, but I like it with my bracelets to have some kind of sturdier look than using thread. So this is the string I'm gonna start off with. And I'm gonna just use a knot to fix it onto this screw here. So that's the purpose of the screws on each of the sides. So I'll go ahead and do that. And hopefully you can see it a bit better. So I'm just gonna tie a knot here. Well, maybe I'll just tie a knot first and then fix it onto here and tighten. And often I like to make things super sturdy, so I'm going to tighten it a bit just with another extra knot. So that's why you see all those scissor marks, or sometimes I guess knife marks, to try and get this out because I double knot it. You might not need to double knot it. I like it to be safe. So what you do then is use these screws or use of this spring. Try and find the center of the string to just spring to put your string into. Doesn't need to be the exact center, it doesn't exactly matter. But what we'll do is try and find the near center here. That looks a bit crooked, so maybe here. And then what you're going to do is wrap your thread around the screw on the other side. And now that you're on the other side, you're just going to keep wrapping like such around the whole thing. In terms of spacing, I'm going to be using seed beads or just really small beads. And that means I don't need a ton of space between strings, and I'll need 14 strings anyway. So I want to keep them close together let's say 2 apart. So I just put, and you could see it a bit better there, the string into, let's say 2 different or 2 spaces, 2 different parts of the screw. And I'm going to do the same on this side. So 1, 2, and I'll put that in there. Wrap around the screw, and I'll come up on the other side of that center string and put it 2 apart. And then we're coming up, and again, it's 2 apart here. And we're going around the screw, 2 apart. So really, to wrap your warp thread on the loom, you just want to do this a bunch of times, this type of wrapping. And you do want to make sure that your thread is pretty taut. So you can see it doesn't have too much give. So make it taut in order that it'll just be more sturdier, your end product. Oh, that is very uneven. So I'm just going to continue doing this until we have 15 threads. And I will show what that looks like towards the end. You'll notice that the bracelet is going to be pretty wide, and that is why I ended up just making it a bit thinner than the original 18 threads. Now, if you do use slimmer string, that's a bit thick. If you do use slimmer string, then you might want to have more beads. And honestly, you could add as many rows as you want. More rows means thicker bracelet. And I have a very tiny wrist, so I do not think I will be as interested in a thinner bracelet. So let's see how much I have here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. And we'll just get 13 up. And then 2 more. So 14. And it doesn't need to be evenly spaced, these different strings. I mean, it is nice if it is, not only for aesthetics, but it just means you're pulling the same amount between beads, or if that makes sense. Yeah, it might not matter too much. So now I should have 15 threads, and I'll count to make sure. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. And to fasten this here, to fasten your string, I would just make another knot. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna pick up my string from the floor and make 1 knot before I put it onto the screw itself. And then I could just double knot. But then there you have it. Your loom is ready for your beads. It's almost like a little harp.